Hello, I'm Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to vlog 222, Chaos. This, of course, is the end of our comma series, and many of you thought this comma series would never end. Well, today is the ending with chaos, and when we started this vlog series 10 weeks ago, we didn't know where it would end. What we did know, with the coronavirus spreading throughout the world, what we did know is that the world would be in a different place at the conclusion of this series. And my goodness me, it is. And of course, I made a decision because, the universities were going into lockdown, the world appeared to be going into lockdown. So I made the decision to record these sessions in my backyard. And of course, we recorded them at sunrise every morning. And there was a reason for that. I wanted the sunrise to be, if you will, a climactic comma, an opportunity for you every day to see the sunrise and make decisions to make this day better and greater and more interesting. But we conclude this series in a moment in time, but also a moment in a very, very special place. I'm recording this vlog from Kangaroo Island. Now, some of you, our South Australian listeners, will know that this is a very, very special place just at the base of South Australia. It's a special place, but it also captures so much of what we've all gone through in the last couple of months or so. Yes, the coronavirus, millions of people have died, millions upon millions of people have got sick. But also the death, or let's call it what it is, the murder of Mr. Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. But also we've forgotten something incredibly meaningful that started off this year, before the coronavirus, before the death, the murder of Mr. Floyd. And what we've forgotten is that this year started with Australian bushfires. Much of this country was on fire, including the very special place that I share today with you. Kangaroo Island was on fire. Many of its industries were crushed. The people, the extraordinary people that live here, were traumatised. But at the end of this comma series, it seemed appropriate to come to you today from this Kangaroo Island. A Kangaroo Island of renewal, of change, of possibilities, of transformation. A year ago, 1 year ago, almost to the day, we shared a vlog I recorded on the green economy, and that vlog was recorded at the base of Aotearoa, New Zealand, from Stewart Island. So almost a year later, maybe this is going to become a thing, almost a year later, I come to you from another island, deep, deep down at the base of the continent of Australia. So this island is a symbol of renewal, of hope, of change. This island is a comma, a geographical pause, a place where the worst has happened and renewal is possible. So here we end our comma series. We end with chaos from a place of renewal. Now, always in this comma series, what I've done is I put in place some definitions, which I'll do for you. Today I'm going to spend a little bit longer talking about chaos and chaotic tendencies in higher education. So I'm going to talk about the chaotic tendencies that exist in our industry, and then 5 strategies at the end to show you how to handle, manage, create some control in and through chaos. Now, I know as COVID has passed throughout the world, the unstable, the really unusual have become our focus. So therefore, let's enter chaos And like many of the paradigms and concepts I talk about, chaos is a really fascinating, edgy, interdisciplinary idea. From the ancient Greek, chaos referred to a void, an abyss, a nothingness before something occurred. So this was pre-Socratic Greek philosophy. Chaos was the first thing to exist, a state before creation. How fantastic. So chaos theory is often used to describe, and I love this, the science of surprises. The study of the non-linear, the study of the unpredictable. How cool is this? So of course the traditional sciences dealt with the predictable phenomena, so gravity, electricity, chemical reactions. But chaos theory explores non-linear variables that cannot be predicted. So turbulence, weather, the stock market. It's here we activate the fantastically complex fractal mathematics, bless. And this is where natural objects have fractal properties, like landscape, like clouds, like trees, like rivers. It's a theory that helps us understand unpredictability. Brilliant. So it just grasps, if you will, that we're never going to understand all the variables and control them in a chaotic system. So right now, chaos is a word that's being used to describe our world. A burning world. A divided world. We cannot predict what is happening here. We live in a time of riots, of profound unemployment and profound underemployment, homelessness, a pandemic that's killing people, and of course economic decline. Wow. We have the triple wrecking balls of COVID, economic collapse and social unrest. Now of course we could all become rather depressed through all of this, but let's not. Let's continue what this series was about. Let's treat chaos as a common. Today I'm going to be listing the 5 strategies that we're going to have to manage in international higher education. I'm calling them the chaotic tendencies in our universities. And look, I'm going to get really mucky here. I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going into what is going wrong in international higher education. Okay. These chaotic tendencies will have to be managed individually, institutionally, but also internationally. These problems are not going away. They're going to require some deep thinking, and they're going to require some revisioning. Our university sector is in chaos. And the reason it's in chaos is because it's lost its purpose. It's lost its vision. What is a university for? And until we have some good answers to that question, these chaotic tendencies will dominate what we do. So let's do it. What are the chaotic tendencies? The first one, you are living. The casualization of the workforce. Team, I finished my PhD during a recession. And I spent the bulk of my research masters and my PhD frightened that I would never be in work. So I really understand that. You are living the narrative of generations of PhD students, because it is tough to get academic work. And that's why right now only about 40% of PhD students stay in a university, 60% get jobs elsewhere. But what makes the situation worse for you than my generation, Generation X, is that the entire university sector has been casualised. So when I tried to get work, there was a group of stable, tenured, professional academics, right? They were. There was then also a small group of contract staff, often replacing one of those tenured staff members, permanent staff members, that was on a research trip, so it'd be a year-long contract, maybe 2. And then, of course, you would have casual tutors formed from the higher degree students, the PhD students. Now, what's occurred right now is the proportion of these three groups is inverting. So there are very few permanent jobs, even fewer advertised. Contracts are given to an array of research grants, so it's often called soft money or teaching backfill for a research grant, so they're the contracts. And of course most teaching tasks are completed by casual labour paid by the hour. This has huge consequences for teaching and learning, has huge consequences for the relationship between teaching and research, and has huge consequences for the livelihoods, the jobs, the careers, the futures of academics. But this situation does get worse because supposedly permanent or tenured posts are profoundly unstable. So we in universities live in an environment of permanent restructure, wave after wave after wave of voluntary or involuntary redundancies. The value of the university, ironically, has always been its academic and its professional staff. The service that we provide to you, the service that we provide to society, is from here, is from our brain, and it's based on decades upon decades of research. Now, when that expertise is gone, it cannot be replaced. So this is a huge moment for our sector. It means that your supervisors, your colleagues, can't help you too much because they're fighting for their own jobs, let alone trying to help you into this system. So this is real, this is now. Sadly, we live in a time that doesn't really like clever people. This is a time that doesn't really like experts or expertise. So in such an environment, universities seem pretty pointless. And because we don't have a concrete answer to that question, what are universities for, we're left with the shock jocks, we're left with the extremists whose opinion is more valuable than our research. Let's get to the second chaotic tendency. Simplification of the word industry. In this intense, invented desire to work out what a university is for right now, we've invented a series of cliches, like partnering with industry. Sadly, the content or the meaning of that phrase is deeply unclear. So what are those industries? What are we talking about? What's in there? Well, defence, obviously, pharmacological industries, some areas of manufacturing, some areas of agriculture. So firstly, these are very small slices of the economic engine of our nation. And also, can I say, they're employing a very small labour force. Tell you why. We have to realise that we've got industries at the moment that are reducing their labour force through robotics, through automation, everything that we think of as the fourth industrial revolution, right? These are small labour forces that are running very large industries, okay? But if we can think about industry more broadly, more generally, then we realise that the biggest industries in our economy are health and education. And they employ an entire big chunk of our workforce. So it's interesting that we rarely think about health and education as industries because we live in a time that disrespects the public good. So any noun that has the word public in front of it is a bit of a problem. So public health, public education, public libraries. So this means that industry has been aligned with the private sector. But have you noticed that these major industries I'm talking about, education and health, they're dominated by, you've guessed it, a female workforce. So this is not the version of industry being summoned by our universities. The version that we're dealing with is the private sector and, of course, male-dominated. Automation, robotics, fourth industrial revolution. But also think about all the other industries that are being ignored, like publishing, like the media industries, the GLAMs, galleries, libraries, archives and museums. I can go on and on and on. Now, CSIRO, in their recent study of the future workforce, agreed with me that the growth areas of the future economy will be health and education. Now, how rarely do you hear this? So make sure in your life and career, when anyone talks about industry partnerships or industry collaborations, poke them, probe them, question them, work out what type of industries they are talking about, and think about the consequences of that definition on our universities. The third chaotic tendency: disrespect of theory and resultant empiricism. Universities used to be, and it's not me being nostalgic, it's true, they used to be a place where at least some of the workforce could enact blue sky thinking, blue sky research. Brilliant people working through complicated ideas for a lifetime. Now, of course, we have short-termism. We have annual KPIs, key performance indicators, performance reviews, and academics are assessed annually via a range of measures that include teaching reviews as assessed by those student reviews. So students fill in a form at the end of the semester and explain how much they liked or didn't like their teacher. That's great, isn't it, in terms of qual-quant? But we're also assessed in terms of the money or the grants that we make with industry. See my previous point. Publications in top-tier journals, often controlled by gatekeepers who are interested in controlling the discipline and their own power. And of course, completing you, finishing higher degree students. And of course, administration. That's often called the housework of our universities. So as you can see, these annual reviews, these performance reviews, result in short-termism. How can I sell this idea quickly? Now, this short-termism also feeds into empiricism. Get the data, push the data out, let the data speak for itself, run the samples, 3 data points, publish. So the cliches outside of our universities have started to marinate what happens in our university. So the cliche, it's only theory. It's only theory. So the theoreticians are the second or third class academics, unfunded, but obviously their research costs very little. Industry has no interest in it because money can't be made from it quickly. And theory is just, let's be honest, a little bit political, which leaves our universities open to critique from the government of the day. So, colleagues, think about what we've all experienced in the last 6 months. Think about what we've experienced in the last 3 years. Could we have studied any of this in a lab? Could we have studied any of this through field work? What particular field were we going to visit? So these are theoretical times. And theory and theoreticians have provided the explanation for what is happening to us now. Read Perry Anderson, read Paul Virilio, read Bell Hooks, read Homi Bhabha, read Henry Giroux, and yes, read Louis Althusser. And if you haven't read any of those scholars, in fact, if you haven't heard of any of those scholars, then that makes my point better than anything I could say. The denial, the disrespect, the marginalisation of theory has meant that our universities are vulnerable to conditions such as this. And we're powerless to have the tools to fight back in a time such as this, because the tools that we require are not a micro pipette or a snorkel or a vacuum chamber. The tools we require are theory. fourth tendency: silo creation and powerfully unproductive divisions between the arts and the sciences. Now, we are in the knowledge business. We are in the ideas business. I respect every scholar and I respect every discipline because I know how hard it is to do the research, to produce the ideas and get them published. This is hard yakka. This is hard stuff, and every discipline, every scholar deserves respect for that. But of course, the silos that exist in our contemporary university that separates academics out means that scholars, we're protecting our patches. We end up with these really stark divisions of knowing, you know, the empirical versus the theoretical, the arts versus the sciences. And actually, of course, the best of knowledge is post-disciplinary. It's promiscuous. The best of research is able to answer a singular question. What problem are you trying to solve? And you know what? No singular discipline, no ontology, no methodology alone can solve a problem. But the silos in our universities mean that we're only seeing a very small part of this story, and we spend our lives protecting our little patch, our little specialism, rather than recognising with intellectual generosity what other paradigms can tell us, can help us, can inform us. The fifth chaotic tendency: marginalisation of teaching and a separation of teaching and research functions in academics, by academics, and in our universities. I'll just put it out there. The best of scholars teach and research. The notion that teaching and research can be separated in our universities, that we have teaching specialist people over there and we have the researchers over there, is antithetical to the very project of our university. But as we've talked about, we don't actually have that project anymore. The problem with designating some academics as education focused, teaching focused, whatever phrase is used around the world, means that they are not research active and they're not encouraged to produce research. So the question then is, what are they teaching? What are they teaching? The definition of an academic was that we research in the areas that we teach. We teach our research. In further education, that is vocational colleges, TAFEs, whatever phrase or language you use in your national sectors, the teachers in vocational education are not research active. They teach the knowledge that they have no hand in creating. So you can see what's happening. We've got a blurring of further education and higher education. And we also have now a highly differentiated workforce that enables, obviously, where we started, the casualization of teaching, but also the designation of research-only staff. And of course, what does that suggest? It suggests that teaching is the housework of the university, below them. And of course, the proper work of scholars is research. Needless to say, and I know this will be a surprise to you, the research-only posts are dominated by men. So, these are our 5 chaotic tendencies in international higher education. These are serious. These are long-term, and I'm not pulling any punches in this final vlog. From this chaos, how can we render this stuff a comma and enable a career? So here are our final 5 suggestions for you to treat chaos in higher education and our society as a comma rather than a full stop. Now, I understand it is easy, it is so easy right now to just give up. Just go, this is bonkers, this is bonkers, let's just stop this. I get that. But don't give up for me. Don't. Let's create some order from this disorder create some space in these claustropolitan times, and let's get some meaning from this messiness. You ready? Let's do the 5. 1. Envisage alternatives. Alternatives. Recognise that your happiness can emerge and will emerge when you have many choices and vistas, when you have many pathways in your life. You see, if you're wedded to one outcome, one pathway, one future for yourself from the PhD, in these times, you are going to be disappointed, okay? During my research masters, during my PhD, I applied for and I got 2 jobs. 2 jobs that I decided not to take and to continue on with my degrees. But let me tell you about those 2 jobs. One job I got during my research masters was to be a part of the social history unit in the ABC. That would have involved me moving from Perth in Western Australia to Sydney in New South Wales and building a career in radio, in public broadcasting. The other job I got during my PhD was for the Australian War Memorial. So I passed the public service test with a perfect score of 10. Nobody was more surprised than me. And a career at the Australian War Memorial beckoned. So firstly, you can see how 2 degrees in history had some pretty good career trajectories outside of a university. Now, I refused both those jobs and I kept going. But let me just state as an old lady now, both of those alternative lives and trajectories would have brought me a lot of happiness, imagination, security, wonders, interesting stuff. Therefore, when you think about your life, education, a career, start to think about it with flexibility. And when I look back on those huge life pivots, I know that both of those alternatives would have been great. I would have enjoyed my life. So don't be wedded to what you know. You can find happiness, you can find a future in so many different locations. So never ever romanticise universities. Never romanticise international higher education. Think about where you would gain meaning and purpose. And know that those locations are plural. 2, always have a plan B. Now, I've had 9 universities jobs. I've had 9 university jobs in 4 countries, so 9 universities. And every single job that I applied for, except one, I was lied to when I accepted the job, right? That means I accepted a job on the basis of a lie. I was lied to. The people in charge lied to me. No way I can really pretty that up. And that means even with the best due diligence in the world, very difficult to foresee a lie. Therefore, it's always important to have a plan B. Always have a plan B. The one great strategy to manage the chaotic employment sector that exists in higher education is to not put all your eggs in this particular university basket. Give yourself choices. Give yourself ways to survive. Now, I understand so deeply that all of us want to believe in the best of people, to believe that universities are the best of workplaces. They are not. I'm a big believer in trust, can I say? I want to trust people. But universities are not places of trust. A truth of my life always has been, when people tell you the truth about themselves, believe them, okay? So if universities are lying to workers on the way into the institution, then that is a truth about how we will be treated in these jobs. Therefore, give the job everything. That's integrity. Give the job everything. but know that your plan might have to be switched and have a plan B. I had the great privilege a few years ago now of supervising a PhD with a wonderful paramedic colleague, and her advice about paramedicine, I've always thought, has wider resonance. For a paramedic, when you enter a house, the first thing you do is locate your exits. There's a life lesson for the rest of us. When you start a job, make sure that you can locate the exits. 3, friendships matter so much. So often, all we have left in life are the friends that we've made. It seems that academic culture is based on nastiness, on competition, and it can be pretty dreadful. And what competition does is it ploughs up collaboration, it ploughs up peer support, it stops intellectual generosity. So whenever you think that, yeah, I'm going to go the full zombie apocalypse, I'm going to go the whole Highlander, there can be only one. Whenever you feel yourself getting into that zone, just remember that these friendships, these collaborations are based on trust. And those friendships will continue throughout your career. There are points in your life when you're going to need guaranteed referees. And what I mean by that, there are going to be points in your life where you're going to be in a bad place. And you're going to need a guaranteed referee to write you that reference to get you out of that spot. So those friendships that you've developed over a lifetime, those friends will get you out of that mess, and they will support you in the next stage of your life. Danny Dorling stated in this remarkable book from 2020, from now, and the book was titled Slow Down. One word, slow down, and I really recommend it to you. But Dorling stated, quote, "A time is coming where rampant consumerism will wane, when it is recognised that wealth does not engender happiness and that much advertising is garnered to create jealousy. When the lives of most people will be improved by better organisation and collaboration, not more competition." The protesters of 1968 were simply ahead of their time. End of quote. Imagine if Dorling's right. 4, know that you can survive when the worst happens. When I started my career, I was a working class girl, and I really wanted tenure. I wanted the permanent paycheck. I did. I really get that. I wanted permanence. And look, I did get it. I got it. But then I realised that tenure means very little in a dreadful workplace. Now, when you're in that dreadful workplace and you think you can't make it, always remember it's a comma. You can, you will make it. And how you'll make it is recognising that you are a leader. You are a leader. Leadership can be found anywhere. Now, of course, weak organisations have hierarchies and titles and all this sort of stuff. But strong organisations know that great ideas exist everywhere, exist throughout the organisation in all sorts of unusual packages. So the best you can do is think about and plan multiple futures. Define your scope. Define your focus. And of course that is truly great life management. But realise that leadership in your own life and beyond is different. Because what leadership allows you to do, it allows you to take a punch in the face, which is bad enough. Leadership allows you to realise, yep, I've just been punched in the face. And then you try and protect and help other people so that they're not punched in the face. Leadership knows when to be silent, when to listen, when to learn, rather than talk and bluster and dominate. And most importantly, leaders know when to leave. If tenure, if permanence is costing you your health, then know something. Universities restructure almost as frequently as they intake new students every single year. There is no stability. There is no permanence. Therefore, if you're lucky, you might get 5 good years in an institution. More likely it'll be 3, but you'll probably get 5. And of course, with the precariat workforce at the moment, you might get 6 months, you might get 8 months. So therefore, go into every single job knowing that it is not a marriage. This is not a fairy tale, and it will not end well. The days of an academic working for a decade in an institution or an entire career in one organisation hasn't been real, it hasn't been true for a generation. So plan for instability, impermanence, quick exits. Always have that plan B, and that leads us to 5. The final bit of comma, yay! Probably the most important one too. Treat your academic career as if it is a small business. It is wonderful if you can believe in the project of a university, that your life, your goals mesh with the goals of that institution. That is wonderful. But remember that a university is not a religious organisation. Being an academic, this is not a vocation, okay? Therefore, today, right now in your PhD program, change how you think about an academic career and treat your working life as if it is a small business. Now, I'm not suggesting that you walk away from social justice work, from inclusive education work. In fact, I'm suggesting the exact opposite. But I am suggesting that right now, if you're waiting around for somebody to notice you, to care about your research, to care about your teaching, to care about your career trajectory, you will be waiting a long time. Hell will freeze over. Academic life is selfish. It's self-absorbed, and it's really, really competitive and nasty. So the way through it is to change your mindset about academic life. And the mindset that I would like you to consider is that you are running your own small business. You are running your academic career within the framework of wider university business. This means that you are not going to lose years of your life doing the dreadful work that no one else will do, year after year after year, just doing the really difficult work, and then finally think, this is my year, this is my moment to finish that book, to finish that research project, because the year that that happens, that's the year that you'll be restructured out of the organisation. There is never a perfect time to do research. There's never a perfect institution to do research. So every single day, think about your CV. What can you do today, to add a line to your CV? Continually work on that thesis, continually work on that academic article. As you've heard me say hundreds of times, pay yourself first. Get up in the morning. Don't look at those emails. Don't look at the discussion fora on Moodle. Don't go there. Pay yourself first. Write that thesis. Write that article. And if you're waiting for the research day or the research leave or the sabbatical, it will never come. You have to be your own small business. So pay yourself first. And pay yourself by writing. Write that thesis. Write articles. And that is how you build the research CV. Similarly, work with social media. Work on your profile. I'm going to use the word. Work on your brand. Create blogs. Create podcasts. Triangulate your research so that your research can find audiences, readers, via Twitter. Work on journalism. Work on pieces for professional organisations. Get paid for your writing. Now, there are a series of online services that deliver paid publishing assignments to you. And I, for example, subscribe to Authors Publish magazine. And once a week for me, they deliver magazines and publishers that want non-fiction pieces, diverse disciplines, non-fiction pieces, and are prepared to pay for it. Work on your public speaking. Enable a series of online presentations. Know that paid speaking gigs can add a huge amount, not only to your CV, but to a financial stream for you in the future. Remember to start to think about consultancy areas. Think about your research and think about how your research can move, how your research can be commodified through consultancy. So let me give you an example. Part of my social justice work is I work a lot on small cities, often called third-tier cities, and regional development. If you read some of my work, you know I'm very interested in that. I wrote a book called Unique Urbanity. City imaging, it's what I do. So that's my project. But that means I also focus very strongly on small cities like Port Lincoln, like Whyalla, like Bolton, like Prince George, these small, interesting, complicated places. And these small places are confronting depopulation, loss of services. So I've developed a very strong consultancy arm in my work that particularly focuses on tourism development in these small places. So my academic work can be translated, I'll use the word of the time, can be translated to be of use to the citizens in these complex places. But it also means my research finds new audiences, and it's also a paid gig. It's consultancy. So think about how your research can be presented in different ways. We've done, for example, an earlier vlog on audiobooks. So once you've got that long article, once you've got that book chapter, once you've got that book, then record it. Create an audiobook. That's great. New audiences for it, but also a new income stream. So I've just given you a few examples there. There are hundreds of examples, but all of these initiatives start with treating your academic career as if you are your own small business. And in a time when nobody seems to have control over anything, you are in control over a portion of your time. You are in control of your CV. You are in control of developing alternative income streams. Now, none of what I've said today is antithetical to social justice, inclusive education initiatives. All of this is about empowering you, the worker in higher education. And the goal is so you are able to have choices in a time when there's seemingly few choices. So from this chaos, we create order. And you know what? Creating that order starts tomorrow morning when you get up and you pay yourself first, you write, and you create a new line on your CV. In this way, chaos becomes a comma. Wow. Thank you so much for accompanying me on this comma series. It's been an amazing 10 weeks, and I couldn't have gone through this time without you all. I just hope you're safe and well, and we're all moving forward. This is a time of commas. Let's create those commas and move forward together. I wish you love, light and peace from the truly magnificent Kangaroo Island. Tia.